So this is not a refugee camp, because refugee camps are designated areas for refugees to stay at, usually outside of bigger cities, where they have their own tents to stay in, and it's a sort of a community over there. However, there's many people. There's basically no access to water to take a shower or use the bathroom, so their hygiene needs are not taken care of, and sometimes they even lack food. They're cold, because I think you can all tell that it's quite cold in France at this time. So because there's so many people there and not everyone wants to stay in this community, they call it, they often move into the cities. And here we have a picture from Paris of smaller refugee camps formed by refugees themselves. So they're not really supervised by the government anymore. And as you can see, the life conditions there are extremely terrible. It's a small area, it's being homeless, it's living on the streets with no access to food, to shower, to water, to family. So it's very difficult to live in those conditions. And that is why we need to help refugees and why I started my project. Here's another picture of the life on the streets. And now, the Esprit de Corps Project has three main goals, you might say. The first one is spreading awareness, and that's what I'm doing right now. I'm telling you guys about this issue. And a little step you guys can take is to tell your parents, your friends, your family about this issue, so we can all get together and try to solve this problem. So there is a website that I will later show you a picture of, or you might have seen it already, of the project, where students who are members of the group are able to publish their own articles or other pieces of writing about the crisis, thus spreading awareness. We also have some plans to host online webinars with special guests like refugees who can tell their story and spread awareness about this problem. So if that will happen in the future, and it sure will, I'm inviting all of you guys to participate, to join and watch and learn. The second goal is a more direct form of service, which is donations and charity work. And by saying donations, it's not always about money, because all of us have something little that they can give and donate to others. Something like time. You can take your time to create something for the refugees. You can prepare food, you can make posters to spread awareness even more, or just give away some of your old clothes, toys, because there are children just like you who don't get the chance to have those things. And lastly, the last aim is to build a strong community, to bring everyone who is willing to make change and act now and join a project. So that includes you guys, that includes students from my campus and the Wiktoria campus, parents, teachers, and even people outside of the ISP community. And lastly, I'll show you a little bit about what is so far created. So we have an Instagram page. I don't know if you guys have access to social media, but perhaps you could ask your parents to show you or your teachers the Instagram account, which has certain updates from different events and different projects, and then the website where you can read about a bit more about the problem we're facing, a bit more about the project itself, and soon the articles that will be published over there and links to the webinars. So that is all I wanted to tell you guys about. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask me. Yeah, go ahead.
So what you're trying to do is like help the refugees and like making donations to help them?
Yeah, that is an idea. We actually have a plan to set inside the ISB campus's collection bins where you can donate anything you don't need anymore for the refugees. Go ahead.
Why did you choose to do like this project? How this idea came? Like, what did you think this idea?
So this idea came to me when I first arrived in Paris, and that was a year ago. When I came here, I noticed that there's a big number of homeless people on the streets here compared to previous countries I lived in. And it was a certain shock to me, and I knew that I had to do something about this because it's very upsetting to see people struggle. And then I joined a volunteer group which basically distributes food to refugees and homeless people on the streets of Paris. And meeting refugees and learning their stories is something that made me feel very emotional about this topic and made me want to act. Go ahead.
I have two questions. How long have you been doing this? Like, for how long? When did you start this?
So I started this project last year. I had to plan everything out with the help of teachers. I had to make clear goals of what I want to do and how I want to achieve my goals. And then I got the chance to present about my project at the student-led conference at my campus last year. And this year we finally formed a group of around 8 members to start actually working and making change.
And how many people are helping you with this?
So right now in our group there's around 8 members from both Beethoven and the Kortenberg campus, so the middle school and the high school. But there are also many teachers who are supporting me. There are my family members who are supporting me, and I hope that you guys will join and support as well. Go ahead.
What was the question again? Do you think that it can be like something that you can do in the future? That you want to continue with it? Like to make like your, like something like that?
Yes, of course. I believe that when it comes to projects that we start ourselves, and I really hope you guys will start in the future as well, it's important to make it a long-term initiative. So it's something that can continue going on and be a sustainable project that keeps working towards solving the issue that we're facing. Go ahead.
I just wanted to say that like 2 years ago, before COVID, we used to make some sandwiches for.
That is great. That's a great way to help. And I'm very glad to hear that. That's amazing.
So about the thing, do you think that how many refugees do you think come approximately in Paris every day?
There are so many refugees. There's around 20,000 coming to Paris, but there's always more. There's very hard to even have the right data to know that amount, because it is often the case that even though, for example, a boat that is supposed to transport refugees is only fits 120 people, it's always overfilled. So the numbers are not really certain right now, but that's an estimate. Sorry?
So like, yeah, never mind.
It's okay.
Well, like before, we've seen lots of things where like the boats break apart and stuff because it's overfilled.
Exactly. That's the case, because everyone is trying to escape and find a better place to stay, and it's something all humans want, to feel safety, because that's one of our basic needs. Go ahead.
Is this like, are you planning on like collaborating with other companies that will help you towards this goal?
Exactly, yes. I'm actually planning on doing that. I'm already having a little bit of help from Service City Paris, which is an organization in Paris, which you guys can join as well with your parents, that, as I mentioned before, distributes food to refugees. So there's a plan to take the donations from the school and give them to that charity so they can distribute them to the refugees. However, there's also a goal for the future. However, it's very difficult with COVID and with funding to have teaching sessions for refugees. So refugees your age, my age, can learn French, English, and other subjects taught by us students. And I'm also thinking of collaborating with another NGO that could help us reach and target refugees who are minors like us.
Victoria, we just learned what NGO means today. We just talked about it before you came. So which NGO, are you talking about Midi Demi?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, yep. And then is Serve the City, is that an NGO or is
Yes,
it run
that's
by,
an NGO.
it's, okay, it's not run by the City of Paris?
Sorry?
It's not run by the City
No,
of
no.
Paris, no, okay.
Go ahead.
When do you have time to like continue to this project? Because like you have like school thing and things like that. So when do you have like, when do you find the time to continue with it?
That's a great question. It's very hard. I'm sure you guys have a lot of work, but I have a lot of work as well in school. However, on Fridays, I meet with the students who are members of the group so far, and we sort of brainstorm on what we can do next, what are our plans. We set goals for the near future. But any free time I have, I will work a little bit. I'll talk to the teachers that can help me. I'll plan some things on the agenda. Any moment that I have, I'll use for the project. Go ahead.
How long do you think this project will run for?
Well, ideally, I wish that it will still continue to work after I leave the school. So I'm in grade 11 now, which means next year is my last year at ISB. But hopefully, maybe some of you guys can take on the project and continue running it, or maybe your older friends as well. Go ahead.
Are you planning on working only to help the refugees in Paris or also in other countries?
So the refugee crisis in Paris is quite severe, so it's already a very big issue to work on. However, as you guys know, refugees are everywhere and you have to help every single one of them. So of course I'd love to help those from other cities and other countries as well, but I think that's more for the future. Yep.
So like when you move to other places, are you gonna help refugees there too?
Yes, of course. As I mentioned, refugees are seeking refuge everywhere. So wherever you guys go, even if you guys switch schools, try to think about it and try to help that issue in the country or city you're in as well.
So just so you know, some of us have hot lunches because we have a hot lunch program here. And some of us, if we don't eat all of our lunch, we save it so that we can take it to the midi to me.
That's great. That's amazing.
So if, my question is, if one of the grade 5 students would like to participate in your project, what could they do to help you?
So if you guys would like to join, first you should ask yourself, how would you like to help? So if there's something you like to do, maybe you like drawing, maybe you like writing, or maybe there's even something else that I can't think of that you guys like to do and you think there's a way that you could help. So it's good if you guys talk to your homeroom teachers or your grade supervisors and they will help you to contact me. And from that point, you can either attend the meetings or we can meet together and contact somehow so you guys can make a contribution to the project as well and make a change. Go ahead.
There's also a refugee that stays close to an area that I live to, so every time I see him, I either give him money or like say hi, or I give him food.
That's great. That's amazing, especially for such a young age. It's very impressive.
When you move on to university, college, whatever you call it, are you going to tell your classmates or your classmates about this project and hope that they will help you with it?
Yeah, of course. Especially if I end up somewhere in Paris or France, it would be nice to spread awareness more and more to people and have them join the project as well.
My mom used to work at a refugee camp for 1 year, and she worked with refugees was basically for young kids that were fleeing their country. And she found it very difficult because the manager would say drugs would help them, and she tried to teach them that drugs would never help. And she also realized that there's also a problem that some young refugees that don't have their parents that they didn't flee with, they might find things very difficult, so they can become very aggressive. But it's not their fault, so people should help and try to teach them.
Yeah, of course. I feel like in this situation you should sort of try to put yourself in their position and imagine what it would be like to be all alone in a different country where you might not know the language the people around you are speaking, you don't know the area, you don't know where you are and how far from home you are. So of course you might feel uncomfortable and show different signs of feeling uncomfortable, but that's just human nature, and that's why these associations try to help people like that to feel more comfortable and to feel safer here. Go ahead.
Do you think Paris is where it's most severe, or is it somewhere else where they have more refugees?
I think it's quite equal between many other countries where there's a big crisis with refugees, but it is a thing people talk about, especially in Paris, the amount of homeless people and refugees living on the streets. So it is quite severe. Go ahead.
Did you help any of people like on immigration? Some people like that?
So since the project started actually running this year, we didn't manage to start any direct service yet. However, personally, yes, of course, as I mentioned, I meet refugees living on the streets of Paris. I talk to them, I listen to their stories, and of course I give them food, any clothes that we might have as a charity group.
My parents do the same thing, but in my country, my parents have a foundation, and they help little kids, and every Christmas we celebrated with them, like last year and this Christmas. So when it will be the holidays, I will celebrate with them, so I'm happy.
That's amazing. That's great to hear, and it's wonderful to know that you guys have such big hearts. Go ahead.
How do you plan on giving the refugees education and entertainment?
So we are planning on collecting a group of students who are willing to teach the refugees, and then we'll have to have some sort of training where teachers from ISB would be willing to train students on how to teach, because it's a very difficult job. And then we would contact an NGO that could try to help us to reach refugees who are minors like us. And then we would have to organize those sessions either outside or maybe in some area that would be available for us. And us, students of ISB, we will teach the refugees French, English, and if there's a need, other subjects. Go ahead.
When we went to different places, sometimes every time we see people, we try to talk to them that are living on the streets. We try to give them something, and we try to make them feel reassured that they will get a home soon and something will come and help them.
That's a wonderful gesture, and it's important to notice those around us. Maybe there's someone living by your apartment or on your way to school that you can help somehow, even with those little gestures as donating a cup of warm tea from a cafe, or a sandwich that you have in your fridge, or just giving some sort of help, maybe giving a contact to a foundation, an organization that can help them.
Any other questions so far?
Go ahead.
When are you planning to finish this project?
As I said, there is no time where I will say, okay, what has been achieved, and it's time to end the project because this situation is very difficult and it won't get solved so quickly. So it's important to get the project going as long as possible so that we can help as many people as possible. Go ahead.
What would make the refugees leave in the first place?
So, as your friend mentioned, and as I also added, it's a situation where they're feeling unsafe in their own home country. So, for example, war, when there's a threat of being killed, when there's a natural disaster and their life conditions are terrible, they escape to find a better place to stay at. Go ahead.
Once you go to university, is this going to be like what you're going to study?
I actually don't know what I'm going to do yet, so it's very difficult to think about it now, and you guys have a lot of time to think about what you're going to study. I don't have as much time, but perhaps if I find something interesting that I could study that is related to this topic, I'd definitely do that. Go ahead.
I think you'd be a good lawyer.
Well, that's very nice of you to say. Thank you. Any more questions, guys?
Thank you for your questions, grade 5. Oh, we have one last one. Go on, Amaya, last one.
Are you going to travel all around the world to help refugees?
I'd love to, but travel is very expensive, so it's easier for me to start locally, and it's also the best step to start. To start locally and start changing your own community, which in this case is Paris and ISB. And then you can move on to other countries, other cities. However, as I mentioned, traveling the world is very expensive, so it probably will be a difficult challenge, but hopefully one day I'll manage to do that.